I just saw season 3, episode 1, and because of it, I almost quit doing any more critiques of Wheel of Time. Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It's my casual alternative to that channel. I'm not gonna say who got me access to it because I don't want to get them in trouble, but I did get to see season 3, episode 1 of The Wheel of Time, Amazon's thing. And it was so atrocious that it was daunting, the idea of having to get into this and critique it as an adaptation. This is not an adaptation. The biggest note that I can give it in general is that they are taking iconic moments from the books out of context, which completely removes any significance that those scenes had as a support for the themes and the general plot and character development of the whole story. So it just felt like a big mess. My family convinced me to not give up on the show completely, so I will do an in-depth critique, but I had to sit down and do this immediately because I need people to know just how frustrating it is to critique something like this that is at this level. I came into critiquing this show hoping that it would be something I can take some good and some bad. And there are some good things about this show. If you're gonna deny that, you're being obstinate. But there's so much that is so wrong with it that it makes you not care about any of the good things that are happening in it. Really, the best thing I can say about it are the sets, props, and costumes. They're pretty good. And actually the actors are doing a fine job with their performances. I just have so much to complain about with the writing and the blocking and the directing and the editing. It's just this huge mess. And we're on season 3. There have been 2 seasons before this where the criticism should have been heard and applied by the time we get to this season. And it's clear that it just has not been applied at all. The butchering of characters and consistency in this show is just so extensive. I would have to critique literally every single line in this show in order to give a nice, thorough critique of it. And I thought that I would be done with that after season 1. Season 2 improved a little bit, but then the things that were being said were problematic in the long run. I mean, you could take an individual scene and say, okay, at least this makes sense, which in season 1, there were plenty of scenes that even just by themselves, the lines from character to character made no sense whatsoever. Season 2, they improved in that. But the thing that they did not improve on is the whole working together. And a couple of days ago, I finally saw the clip that people were telling me about from Brandon Sanderson, and I'm going to play part of it right now.
I really do like the whole team working on Wheel of Time. I think they've done some great things. But one of my big fights with the showrunner has been, he's like, well, this is how we do it in television. I'm like, but this is how we do it in long-form storytelling, right? And what you're making should be more like the long-form storytelling rather than the episodic television that is his background. That's what he knows how to make. I want them to write an entire season. And I want them to workshop that entire season. And I want them to get those scripts good and then film that. And I don't see that happening a ton. I see them sitting down and coming up with a concept for the season, sending someone to start writing, someone else to start writing, you to start writing, yours gets done. You tell them, we need you to finish your scenes that are taking place in the same place as this one because we got to have our film date next month. So they go film those 3 scenes from those 3 episodes written by 3 different people, workshopped a little bit, but then you get it back and then you're doing the scripts are never done by the time they start filming. That's not how Hollywood television works. And that really bothers me because I can see it in their storytelling.
Why does Amazon think this is going to work? Why does anybody think this is going to work? If I were to tell you, I'm going to tell a complex story, much like a mystery, where we're going to have certain clues and things scattered throughout the entire story. And I said, you know what you're going to do? You're going to get 6 different writers on this, and they're going to write scattered scenes throughout the entire show, but they're not going to talk to each other, really. I'll just give them the main points that they have to include in them. Who thinks that's a good idea? The only time that something like this works is for a completely different kind of story. Something like Star Trek: The Next Generation, where you've got every episode is basically a standalone with a very small character progression that strings across the entire series. Something so subtle that if you had multiple writers, one for every other episode or whatever, you shouldn't look at each episode and feel like there's a huge difference between who Captain Picard is in this episode and the next episode. That doesn't happen in the whole series. Character progression does happen, but it's not significant. But this is a continuous story from A to B, or from A to Z. I'm talking season 1, episode 1 is position A, and the final episode of the final season will be position Z. You cannot have a character who goes through very little development across a story this extensive. This is a 14-book series. Is it 13, 14, 15? I don't know. If you count New Spring, it's a lot of books. I haven't even read all of them, but I'm telling you what, by the time you're at book 6, which is where I am right now, Rand is not the same character. Perrin is not the same character. Egwene, Elaine, they are not the same person. So you cannot construct a story with multiple writers who are not communicating with each other, who are just getting a few notes here and there about what important plot points should be in their story. Like, they should be a different person from episode 1 of season 1 to episode 8 of season 1. Like, even within a season, they should be going through a lot of changes. There was so much telling in this episode that I'm going to be saying they're telling this for pretty much every line in this episode. It was that bad. The characters did nothing but sit around and talk, with the exception of the first scene and the sort of last scene. I don't even want to get into the fight scenes. These are something that I really hold close to my heart, but I don't usually critique them hard because I know that I'm kind of a martial arts and choreography snob, and that's superficial for a criticism. But when you have characters who are, you've got like a group of 5, it was either 5 or 7 Aes Sedai who go bad in the first scene, and they're up against like 11 others, and they kick their asses, and then they escape. And guess what? Outside of the White Tower, they face one Aes Sedai, Alana Sedai, and her 2 warders, who are completely worthless, by the way, in a fight against Aes Sedai. They should be. And she kicks their asses. She doesn't win the fight, but she still kicks their asses. How is Alana more powerful than 11 other Aes Sedai? And these were not any just 11. These were sitters of their respective Ajas and the Amerlin seat, who the show has been giving me the impression is like the most powerful channeler, except for Nynaeve, apparently. The consistency is not there. I did not for 1 second believe that Alana was going to take out this group of 7 baddies, and then she did. Oh, and she can do martial arts, by the way. Like, she's not just channeling, but she is also, like, flipping and dodging and doing all kinds of stuff that her warders would be doing, not her. Like, what's the point of the warders if you can do all the stuff that they're doing? What is the point of a warder in this show? It's supposed to be to guard you, because channeling would require so much focus that you're just standing there doing what looks like nothing to a non-channeler. And if anybody who's not channeling or being attacked by this channeler, the warders are there to protect you as an individual. Oh my gosh, it's hard to even put to words the kind of criticisms I have. Oh yeah, and this one. There were at least 2 instances where Alana turns her back on other channelers. Why didn't they kill her? Why didn't they just chop her head off right there? There was no warder to defend her at that point. Nobody between her and the channeler. The channeler should have just killed her. There were also times in the editing where you could see that they took a fight to a certain point, and then what they did was they went back in time and picked up the next cut from back in time. An example of this would be like you're running up to Aes Sedai to kick her ass. I don't know what you're going to do. And the camera cuts just as you're in front of them. But then the next cut, she hasn't even started running towards that Aes Sedai yet, where she's back over here and then she's going to start running. That is so jarring and difficult to watch. And it's difficult to keep up with what the hell is going on in the action. But you slow it down and you go, oh, that's what happened. And then you slow it down and think about it and you go, why the hell is nobody killing her when her back is turned to other Aes Sedai? Like, having your back turned to like 2 enemies is a huge no-no in any fight. Look, I don't doubt that the fight choreographers were doing their best. I don't doubt that the cinematographer was doing their best. I don't doubt that the editor was doing their best. But somebody's supposed to be there to oversee all of this and make sure it's cohesive, make sure that it all works together, and this does not work together. On to character relationship bastardization. I cannot tell you how infuriating it is to come into this being told it is an adaptation only to discover that it is in fact a fan fiction. And the fan fiction that is usually buried deep in like erotica where people just want to look at their favorite characters banging, that's what this is. So Elaine and Avienda, who in the books are described as being close like sisters, they call themselves sisters, bang in the first episode. And I'm not saying it's implied that they bang. I mean, they're making out. Elaine climbs up on top of Avienda, straddling her, and Avienda's creeping her hand up her thighs. It's a full-on sex. Like, it's not up to the sex, but it's there. I've been told over and over in my comments, and it was mentioned again during the screening, a quote by C.S. Lewis. Now, before I give this quote, I'm going to give you a definition in case you don't know what it is, but eros, E-R-O-S, is physical, sexual lovemaking. That's what it's love in the physical, sexual sense, which is the thing that Elaine and Avienda did not have in the book. Not at all. C.S. Lewis said this: "Those who cannot conceive friendship as a substantive love, but only as a disguise or elaboration of eros, betray the fact that they have never had a friend. The rest of us know that though we can have erotic love and friendship for the same person, yet in some ways, nothing is less like a friendship than a love affair." There is something so powerful about a friendship so deep that you would do anything for this other person, and it has nothing to do with wanting to bang them. It is simply, I love and respect this soul, and I want to help and protect this soul. I would do anything for this soul. That's what a friendship at that level is. That is what Frodo and Sam were. When people take a friendship like that and make it sexual, you are degrading what it is. You are taking away from the depth of that friendship. There's nothing superficial about their friendship. There's nothing on the surface level about their love for each other. It is literally the love of one soul for another. Sex is an animalistic instinct. It is something that is a basal human instinct. It's something that we as humans are actually called upon to be able to control. See, animals do not control sexual desire. They literally lose their minds over it because it is something so base. And I don't mean based in the way it's talked about now, where it's like, oh, you're so cool and smart and you made this awesome comment or whatever. I'm talking about it is basal. It is like something that primitive life forms do, not higher up reasoning, logical creatures like human beings. I'm talking about animals. Animals go around and Humans make love. Yeah, they can but it's animalistic. And having a relationship, especially one like that we see Elaine and Avienda initiate and develop literally in one episode. They go from, they've never even been in the same scene together in season 2, which is where we're introduced to Avienda. They never even talk to each other. They never talk to each other. They've never looked at each other. They never know, that's it. And then suddenly we see this interest in each other blossom, and then they're banging. It's so basal, it's taken away the beauty of this friendship. Some light went out somewhere. I can feel it. As somebody who has had friendships that were at that deep level, where you would do anything for this person and there is no sex involved, I'm offended by the degrading of that kind of friendship as represented in so much of Hollywood right now. It's really insulting and really frustrating. And it reveals that this show is a fan fiction. It is not in any way an adaptation. It is pure fan fiction, and it is the lowest form of fan fiction, where you take your favorite characters you've always wanted to see bang and you make them bang. There's no denying it anymore. You cannot hide behind, oh, we had COVID, so we had to change things, or, oh, we wanted to give Egwene this big moment and we didn't want to have Rand escalating in his abilities too quickly. None of that's an excuse. This is episode 1 of season 3, where you have had time to hear all the criticisms, and you're taking characters who have a deep friendship and you're making them bang. And for anybody who's going to come after me and say, oh, you're just against gay, whatever, what is wrong with you? You don't know what the hell you're talking about. I want a relationship I can believe in, one that I can see anticipation, one where I can follow the characters in their development and say, dang, I wish these two would meet because they would get along really, really well. And then they do. And it means something. It's not just two people going, dang, I'm so freaking horny, I gotta bang you right now. And that is what this was. What is wrong with people? Can you just get your basal impulses under control for 5 minutes while you consider what you're gonna do with characters? Just for 5 minutes. Just think about it. Just be a higher, rational human being for 5 minutes. I'm not even the hugest fan in the world of Wheel of Time, the books, and I'm this upset at how much they are butchering this story. I'm not even done with the book series. I'm not even halfway through. Am I? I'm on book 6. Yeah, I'm not even halfway through yet. And I can see that this is totally destroying it. Here's another quick critique I'm just going to throw out there. In the very first scene, there is a huge ass revolt in the White Tower. We see the White Tower explode. Plumes of smoke and fire coming out of it. Everybody can see. There is a Aes Sedai battle in the streets with 7 Black Aja and Alana being Superwoman and her 2 guys who one of them dies, and it's the black guy. I thought this would be a problem. I'm just saying. So that's just happened. And then we get the main gang hanging out in their hotel, and Moiraine going, yeah, we gotta keep very quiet and secretive about everything. We can't let the White Tower know you're here. And what do? We cut immediately to Matt and Rand and Perrin hanging out in some bar, or is it a coffee shop? I don't know. Matt's hanging out there with the Horn of Valyr that he extracted from some chick's ass in the last episode of the previous season, I'm guessing. Posing with that, getting his picture drawn, advertising to everybody, haha, I blew the Horn of Valyr in, Falm. I'm one of the great heroes of legend. And look, it's Rand, the Dragon Reborn. Did the person who wrote that scene not write the first scene of this entire season? It was all in one episode. Do they have different writers for each scene? Is that how it's working now? Is that how it's going? Because that's what it felt like. It felt like, what is going on? And then we've got Moiraine, who is plotting with Lanfear against the Ta'veren, against Rand and Matt and Perrin and and I guess Egwene and Nynaeve are supposed to be in there too now. They're not in the books, but in the show, they are Ta'veren. She's plotting with one of the Forsaken. She has no reason to trust Lanfear at all. Not at all. In the third to last episode, she literally tells Rand, you cannot trust her. She's a Forsaken. You can't trust a word that she says. And she said that right after she found out that Lanfear said, if I see Rand and Moiraine together, I'm going to kill Moiraine. Then in the last episode, Moiraine and Lanfear are in the ways with Rand and the gang, and they're all heading towards Falm. And what does Lanfear do? She tricks Moiraine and Lan and shoves them out of a way gate early, before they get to Falm. Apparently there's 2 way gates, one right outside of Falm and one actually in Falm. Weird. I mean, it's just weird. Moiraine has no reason to trust her. No reason at all. And yet, we see Lan noticing Lanfear down in the streets. And then the next scene, we've got Moiraine and Lanfear talking to each other. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, I know you don't like me, but I actually kind of like you because you're kind of manipulative. And it's like, why are they talking to each other? And at the end, Okay, we get that famous scene from the books, which was very creepy, and this is not why it happened. This is why I gave that big rant about taking things out of context, and then it totally removes what they are. There is a strange phenomenon in the book, and I have not reached the point where there is an explanation for it, but I have been told in the comments. It's basically like a glitch in the Matrix happens, and it's because the Dark One is coming out. He is emerging. It's not something that a particular Forsaken does. It is literally just this like ripple effect of he's emerging from his prison, and these are sort of the shock waves that are coming out. You get the scene where you've got Perrin's axe coming after him, and you've got Matt's cards coming to life and trying to kill him, and then you've got Rand being attacked by mirror images of himself. It is the first major moment of what I expect to be several occurrences like this that have the explanation of this is what happens when the Dark One gets out. His power starts to reach into the real world and screw things up and make horrible things happen. But at the end of all of that, we get the reveal that Moiraine had plotted with Lanfear. You know what we should do is you should attack the Ta'veren, attack the kids to make them do what I want them to do, which is leave here. She wants them to leave Tar Valon and go, I forget where the hell she wants to go. It really doesn't matter. She wants them to go to Tyr. And Rand is like, screw you, I'm not going to Tyr. I'm going to go off to the Aiel Waste. So not only have you taken away that this is a premonition or not a foreshadowing of things to come, you've said that Moiraine plotted for this to happen. I was so confused because it doesn't reveal that this was part of Moraine's plot. All of a sudden, you see all of the Ta'veren getting attacked in their rooms or the kitchen or wherever the hell they happen to be, and Moiraine and Lan are in their room listening to everybody screaming for their lives and going, nope, don't do anything, don't do anything. And then Lan runs off when he hears Nynaeve screaming and he saves her, I guess. By the way, Lan and Nynaeve have a lovely little make-out session, which I was like, if only this had happened in season 1, because they had no chemistry at that point. And now they're supposed to be like, we're deeply in love with each other. And he gives her a ring and, you know, like he does in the book off screen, or off page, which I don't approve of. I would have loved to have seen this moment in season 1 where he gives the ring to Nynaeve. But I can't. Oh my gosh. But yeah, this moment had the most chemistry out of all their scenes together ever. And I was like, it's too late. They're at a stage I do not believe. And yeah, I don't believe that Moiraine would plot with Lanfear to attack everybody. Oh yeah, and then Lanfear's like, I didn't do this. In the book, she said this to Rand, because Rand is like the only one communicating with Lanfear at this point, and he's kind of keeping it on the DL. But she goes, oh my gosh, there's only one person who would have done this. We get the reveal that, I don't remember the name of which Forsaken this one is, but she's the spider one, right? Which I think she's supposed to be a combination of a couple of different Forsaken, because I know we're cutting a bunch of them out, which I'm actually not against doing that. I just feel like you gotta be very careful when you do this. She's doing what appears to be creating a gray man, which I've not gotten a full definition of until I went onto the Wheel of Time fandom, because I needed to look up what the hell is the difference between a gray man and other dark friends. And it's basically somebody who has given their soul to the Dark One and has been sort of diminished into this very difficult to see creature that can be used as like an assassin. And they still resemble a man. They can do whatever they're ordered to do. But I was sort of under the impression that this is something that only the Dark One can do. Like it's that big of a deal. So I guess the Forsaken can do that now too. Maybe I'm wrong on that one, but whatever. Look, trying to give constructive criticism on what has been done is exhausting. And Amazon does not make it easy for me to be able to make videos that are both entertaining and informative, because if you didn't know, they demonetized basically all of my videos now, including clips. So I had a 2-second clip in my last video. I mean, I had a lot more than that, but they were calling out 2-second clips, like out of the middle of nowhere, here's a 2-second clip, your video's demonetized. How am I supposed to do any kind of criticism on a show where I can't show any of the footage? I didn't even have the audio for it for that segment. I just had the video, 2 seconds. It's extraordinarily frustrating. I almost stepped away from this show. And I'm gonna definitely put less effort into it, because Why should I put in more effort into giving constructive criticism, which you really can't give any constructive criticism on a total farce of an adaptation? This is not an adaptation. This is a fake adaptation. It is using the word improper in the way that it uses scenes and characters out of context from the books. They are using the word adaptation out of context. It's an adaptation of what they imagine in their heads, having been inspired by these books. It's not an adaptation. It is a pure erotica fan fiction. That's what this is. I guess, yeah, it's technically not at the stage of erotica, but they've had characters dry humping each other. And you know Moiraine and Lanfear are gonna bang at the end of this season. It was all over the trailer. Oh, my eye is twitching just from the stress of the thought of having to critique this show in depth. Anyway, I'm not recommending anybody watch this series if they are watching for the sake of seeing an adaptation of a book series that they love, because it's not that at all. It hasn't been for a while, but at this point, it's a fan fiction for sure, no denying it. They've had 2 seasons to try to figure it out. This is it, it's over. And it's not even a good fan fiction. It's at the same caliber as other fan fictions that you find hidden deep in the deepest recesses of the internet. I will do my best to get a critique out, but there's no way I'm going to try to go as in-depth as I have in the past, because it's just ridiculous at this point. We're back to the kinds of critiques that should be done for a first draft. And at this point, there's just no excuse for it. I wish that the actors, the people doing costumes, the people who are working on special effects, the people who are finding these fantastic locations, because they have found some really cool locations, people building sets, the people editing, anybody working on this show, fight for the story. Please, fight for it. You have some say in this. Your name is on this project. Your efforts deserve better representation. Can you imagine how nuts the book fandom would have been if this was actually an accurate adaptation? If this was an adaptation that took the heart and soul of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan and said, let's put it on screen and really put an effort into it. Like, people would be commenting on the tiniest details included from the books because, wow, they did everything right, even these tiny little things. They didn't just do the big things, they did even the smallest things. Like, the more accurate you are to the book, the better. And when you take small liberties in order to smooth something out, because this is a different medium and it has different constraints, such as time, they will appreciate it when you take the effort to still honor the source material, even with the liberties that you have taken. But this is taking somebody else's work, completely disrespecting it, and getting to put your name next to theirs and say, look what I did. Go into the Sistine Chapel and spray paint graffiti art all over it and see how happy people are about your work there. Please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's free for you and it helps me, and I'm sorry about all the commercials on these videos. If you saw clips from The Wheel of Time in this video, I don't have control over the advertisements that appear on it. I don't have control over how many there are or where they appear. I just don't, because Amazon does. And YouTube does, and they get all the money from it. They get all that money. And if you have the means and you're feeling super generous, please check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber, or you can leave me a one-time tip. Anything is much appreciated. But oh my gosh, I gotta go take a break. So I will get on reviewing this next episode, this first episode of the 3rd season, right away. And I do apologize if this one comes out before my final episodes of season 2, but I'm trying to be timely with these, and Amazon put me behind on my last 2 episode reviews. So doing the best I can in the constraints that I have. Be good to yourself.